Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. North Korea has opened its 9th Workers' Party Congress, the regime's most important political gathering, setting the tone for its direction at home and abroad for years to come. Now, Kim Jong Un was unanimously re-elected as General Secretary, reinforcing his grip on power at a moment Pyongyang says it has irreversibly strengthened its national status. The Congress has highlighted nuclear deterrence as a core achievement, carried out a sweeping leadership reshuffle, and revised party rules, all while staying largely silent on specific policies towards South Korea and the U.S. With a military parade expected to follow, the signals coming out of this Congress could offer critical clues about North Korea's military ambitions, diplomatic posture, and long-term strategic trajectory. For a deeper discussion on this, we are joined in the studio by Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. A very big welcome, Dr. Go.
Good to be here.
And also joining us online is Ramon Pacheco-Pardo, Professor of International Relations at King's College London and KFVUB Korea Chair at the Brussels School of Governance of Vrije Universiteit, Brussels. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start our discussion with Dr. Go, with the big picture first. So North Korea's 9th Workers' Party Congress, where Kim Jong Un was unanimously re-elected as the General Secretary. What do you think is the political significance of that?
Well, there's no surprise that Kim Jong Un got re-elected as the General Secretary of the North Korea's ruling party, the Workers' Party. It was preordained. There's no surprise there. But I think what's interesting is the language that accompanied the news of his reappointment. So essentially, the language that came with the statement of his reappointment, essentially shows that how his political base has been strengthened due to the overall changes in the external environment for North Korea, which is right now very favorable to the regime. So essentially, what the statement said is that Kim Jong Un is being reappointed as the party general secretary because he has achieved very high level of self-respect and self-strength for the country. And I think that's a reference to the fact that he's been able to raise the prestige of his country due to the very tight relations that Russia and North Korea have developed in the last 3 years. And also, in part of the relations allow North Korea to acquire high-level, very advanced strategic technologies and weapon systems, such as the new ICBM that is displayed, as well as the military spy satellites, in addition to the nuclear-propelled submarine that they unveiled Christmas Day last year. So all these achievements, North Korea is showcasing all these achievements and creating this to Kim Jong Un. So it shows that the Kim Jong Un is entering the new term of North Korea's General Secretary with a much more strengthened basis.
So it really seems to show how firmly Kim has consolidated power. And in his opening speech at the 9th Congress, Kim said that at a time of the last Congress, the situation was so severe that it was difficult to even preserve the system itself. But now the country has irreversibly solidified its national status. Professor Pardo, what exactly does he mean by that?
Well, I think that other than what Dr. Ko has mentioned, the close relationship with Russia, the technology transfer, etc., I think Kim Jong-un is referring to a couple of different factors. The first of them is that North Korea today is in a better economic condition than it was during the previous party congress. We're coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic 5 years ago, and North Korea suffered tremendously during the pandemic because it closed down its own borders, and this was actually acknowledged to an extent by the North Korean regime, by the North Korean government. And clearly the economic situation is better now, and one of the key reasons behind this is obviously the relationship between North Korea and Russia. And I think the second factor he's referring to is that from a geopolitical perspective, North Korea is in a stronger place today than it was a few years ago. It has strong relations with Russia. It has an improving relation with China as well. And even though obviously inter-Korean relations or relations between North Korea and the US are not as strong as they were, for example, in 2018-19 when we saw diplomacy, from a geopolitical perspective, North Korea is in a better position today. Less isolated and more powerful than it was a few years ago.
Right, it's really at a different status from 3 years back then. Now, building on that, North Korea has highlighted strengthening war deterrence centered on nuclear forces as a key achievement of theirs. What does that actually tell us about North Korea's nuclear strategy, Dr. Go?
So it's interesting. North Korea has been repeating this phrase that nuclear achievement is their key achievement, and they've been repeating this at least for the last decade. So there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to nuclear capability and North Korea's pride in it. But I think what changes now is the fact that they're essentially, we have to wait to see what North Korea's Ninth Party Congress report will be. I think it's going to officialize some of the new defense and the foreign policy lines. We have to wait for that. But nonetheless, if we are allowed to speculate, it's likely that North Korea is going to again reemphasize the centrality of their nuclear capability. And what Bears mentioned is that we might think of nuclear capability by North Korea as part of their military strategy. But in North Korea, their nuclear capability is much bigger than that. It's part of their national strategy. So what it means that North Korea is going to leverage the possession of nuclear capability, not just for security, but also for foreign policy to raise their global status, as it was mentioned before. I think Professor Parado mentioned this in his remarks. But also for economic gains. That was kind of hinted in one of the remarks made by Kim Jong Un. So it's difficult to imagine how they're going to leverage their nuclear capability for economic gains. But at least that's part of their playbook. So we have to wait and see what they're going to say.
So it's really their nuclear program. It remains central to its nuclear and national strategy. The party Congress also adopted a decision to revise the party charter, but specific details were not disclosed, including whether the so-called hostile two-states policy was formally reflected. So if that line is explicitly written into the charter, Professor Pardo, what changes could we expect in inter-Korean relations and in North Korea's broader strategies?
Well, I guess from a legal perspective, there would be a change because North Korea is officially labeling South Korea as an enemy state. We're talking about two different countries that need to coexist. In practice, though, we would have to wait and see because we have seen, for example, in recent weeks, for the first time really since Lee Jae-myung took office, North Korea acknowledging that South Korea is trying to change its policy towards the north. It hasn't acted on this, but it is still at least acknowledging this change. So we know that in the case of North Korea, even if the constitution is changed, at any point it can be changed again. Essentially, this depends on the Kim family and the North Korean elites. So I think de facto there wouldn't be much immediate change, even if this is codified legally in writing. And I think we will need to see how the relationship between the US and North Korea evolves to see whether there is an actual change in policy from North Korea towards the South, becoming more hostile or not. Because in my opinion, if there is a dialogue process between North Korea and the US, and this is a distinct possibility under President Trump in the US, then we could see the resumption of inter-Korean diplomacy. And this would mean that any change codified by North Korean writing doesn't really affect the relationship with South Korea in practical terms.
So we really have to wait for the details moving forward. But let's shift to external messaging, Dr. Go. So the Congress, it really focused heavily on domestic issues like economy, but it didn't really talk about detailed messages on South Korea and the United States. How would you read into this?
So again, there's only like a little information came out of the Ninth Party Congress proceedings. We have to wait and see, and then it's still ongoing. So we have to wait whether North Korea will decide to release what they have decided on when it comes to their approach towards the South and the United States. But I think we don't think there will be a radical change of directions in terms of their approach towards the South and the United States. I think it's going to be a continuation what North Korea's posture has been towards these two countries. So North Korea has been insisting that South Korea is an enemy state for North Korea. What it means is that they are an enemy towards the South is going to go beyond the traditional antagonism that North Korea has shown to the South. It's going to essentially officialize South Korea as an enemy state. That means that North Korea will no longer consider South Korea as a partner or interlocutor for unification. So North Korea basically giving up the dream of unification with the South. So I think they're going to officialize that line in this party Congress. So even if it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen soon after. So I think because North Korea has been so invested in this new two hostile state doctrine, it will be very interesting or surprising to see North Korea not taking any action in a very important moment like the Ninth Party Congress. So that remains to be seen. When it comes to the United States, I think the approach is going to be middle of the ground. What I mean by this is, I think Kim Jong Un is still undecided about how to proceed with President Trump's invitation offers to dialogue. It's only, I mean, because President Trump just assumed office last year, so it's been 1 year of President Trump's term. So there are 3 more years remaining out of his presidential term. So North Korea cannot really decide what kind of approach or posture will assume towards Trump at this moment. So if they were to engage in the United States in dialogue, then clearly Kim Jong Un will be already out there and say announcing that. But I think there's some doubts about President Trump's genuine intentions to give North Korea what he wants. So I think they are still undecided, and it's likely that they're going to reflect some of the language in this party Congress. I think that also gives North Korea more strategic flexibility.
So we'll have to find some clues moving
Exactly.
forward. Now, we also saw a sweeping personal reshuffle. Key senior figures stepped down, and more than half of the Workers' Party Central Committee members were replaced. Professor, what does this level of turnover actually suggest? Do you think it points to a stronger diplomatic line or an effort by Kim to move beyond the previous generation and consolidate his own leadership?
My impression is that Kim Jong-un is trying to bring new blood into the party, into the leadership, to consolidate power. We saw during his first years, after taking over from his father, there were many purges in North Korea, including his uncle, for example, who was deemed to be maybe too independent in his thinking. And what I think we're witnessing during this party Congress is Kim Jong-un really solidifying his position by promoting loyalists, by promoting members of the party who are going to support his policies no matter what. Of course, this is not new in North Korean history. Kim Il-sung did the same in the 1950s, 1960s as well. So he's basically following the playbook, Kim Jong-un following the playbook of his grandfather. So I don't think this means any particular change in policy. I think this is more about the consolidation of power of Kim himself.
Mm-hmm. But some say that this generational shift could be laying the groundwork for the 4th generation hereditary succession. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I think I agree with Professor Pardo that this is essentially ever-occurring process of power consolidation. So that's it's surprising because in North Korea, power has been so consolidated around Kim Jong Un. So it's really surprising that they have any more power to be left to be consolidated. But nonetheless, I think what's going on here is that this is more of a natural generational change taking place in the North Korean leadership circles. The previous generation of North Korean leaders who came to power along with Kim Jong Un, like 13 or 15 years ago, actually 15 years ago from today, and they got old. So therefore, there's a natural sequence of retirement taking place right now, and they're being replaced by new faces. So I think it's too soon to interpret this as a preparation for a succession process to take place soon. Because for the succession to take place along with the generational change in the leadership circles in North Korea, something should have happened to Kim Jong Un's status. Kim Jong Un seems to be well. He seems to be healthy. He seems to be in charge. He's still in his early 40s. So there's no need for North Korea to commence succession process at this juncture. Kim Jong Un is way too young, even compared to the regional leaders. He's the youngest national leader in East Asia, probably one of the youngest leaders around the world. So succession process is interesting, but nonetheless, I think it's too far-fetched to read the natural changes in the leadership generation at this point as a first step towards succession especially for Kim Joo-ae to take over in the near future.
Right. As Dr. Go has just pointed out, there was a lot of interest about whether the possible designation of Kim Joo-ae as the successor of Kim Jong Un. Professor, and we are aware that Kim Joo-ae hasn't apparently appeared so far. How should we interpret her absence?
Well, I agree with the point that Professor Go just raised about there is no need really to start a succession process just yet. It seems that Kim Joo-ae has been groomed to be the future leader of North Korea, but as we know, in North Korea, the sibling who seems to be potentially the next leader not always takes office, not always takes power, and it was the same with Kim Jong-un. He took office, but some 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have thought of him as a potential successor of his father. So I think with Kim Joo-ae, right now, yes, it looks like she's been groomed to become the next North Korean leader. But I agree that there's no rush to start a succession process. And also we think that she has two brothers, or at least one brother, and in a few years' time, we could be talking about one of her siblings as the potential successor of Kim Jong-un. So I think it is too soon to know where we stand with regards to the succession of Kim Jong-un.
Right, it's quite early to make a lot of speculations. Now, finally, before we conclude our discussion tonight, a military parade is expected after the Congress. Dr. Go, what do you think we should be looking for and watching for, and how might it signal North Korea's military and diplomatic direction over the years?
Well, I think it's always a kind of an Easter egg that we're looking for in the military parades that take place in North Korea after major political events such as this one. But then again, of course, the all eyes will be on whether North Korea is going to unveil yet another weapon system with Russian influence. I think North Korea has been very transparent when it comes to unveiling what were the latest toys that we receive from Russia. So they don't even filter what they receive. So what they get is what they show. So if that's the case, then the chances that North Korea is going to not surprise us, but satisfy meet our expectations with a new weapon system. And if the latest clues are any hint, then I think what North Korea might do or might unveil this time could be yet another strategic weapon system, some sort of missile. Like chances that it's a hypersonic missile or improved versions of their intercontinental ballistic missile.
So we would be able to gauge their level of development.
In addition to that, the extent of Russian influence or Russian assistance that North Korea is receiving right now.
Right, so it will definitely be a signal of what will come next moving forward. We'll have to leave our discussion right here. Many thanks to Dr. Go.
My pleasure.
And of course, Professor Pardo, we really appreciate it.
Thanks to you.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.